Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this special edition of Caregiver Lounge, Redefining the Holidays. We're bringing this to you with both Momcology and our friends at the Andrew McDonough Be Positive Foundation. I'm Kat Pacente with Momcology, and tonight we're excited to welcome Dr. Natalie Naguib with Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and Dr. Allie McDonough with the Andrew McDonough Be Positive Foundation to our couch. During tonight's webinar, we will be exploring the challenges of navigating and redefining the holidays for families in the pediatric cancer community. Please know that your cameras and microphones will be off, so you can feel free to settle in and get comfortable. If you do have questions during the session, we ask that you use the Q&A function. Dr. Naguib and Dr. McDonough will respond to questions throughout the evening and then again during a dedicated Q&A at the end. If your question happens to be Zoom or tech related, a team member will assist you as soon as we can. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our guests. Thank you both so much for being here and welcome to our couch.
Thank you for being here tonight. I'm Dr. McDonough, and Dr. Naguib is here with us as well, and she will share shortly. So the holidays can bring up a lot of emotions for families affected by childhood cancer, and often more than people expect. Tonight, we're going to be talking about what that can look like. And it's completely normal to feel joy, sadness, gratitude, grief, exhaustion, all at the same time. Mixed emotions don't mean that something is wrong with you. It just means that your heart is holding on to a lot. For many families, this time of year highlights a sense of before and after. So you may find yourself reflecting on how much has changed since diagnosis or where you hope to be by now. And that reflection can bring pride, sadness. It could bring them separately. It could bring them both at the same time as well, and that's okay. Traditions, songs, family rituals, these all can bring up memories of life before cancer. And these feelings can sometimes be comforting, sometimes they can be painful, and they could be both at the same time as well. So we're going to talk a little bit later about how you can honor old memories and old traditions while also creating new traditions that fit your family's current reality. The holidays can also bring up a lot of pressure from ourselves or from others to make things feel cheerful, magical, or to meet a certain expectation. It's important to remember that kids remember connection more than perfection. So the small, calm moments together matter more than that picture-perfect celebration. Of course, there can also be grief for what's changed, been lost, things like routines that are lost, traditions, milestones, even loved ones. And there could be guilt for things like feeling sad when you think you should feel grateful. These feelings can coexist. And alongside the hard moments, there can still be deep gratitude for things like good scan results, for a smile from your child, or for simply being together.
So as many of you are aware, when cancer comes into the picture, everything gets turned on its head. So during the holiday season, it really is not much different. Diagnosis and treatment, or even a history of it, can make the holidays particularly complicated. It can impact how you or your family are doing in terms of your mood or your energy level, your social interest, or should I say social tolerance, an overall feeling of emotional and physical well-being. It can exhaust time and resources as well. So when is there going to be time for decorating, cooking, shopping, planning? The only thing you really can plan for during cancer treatment, unfortunately, is unpredictability and unexpected changes on how your child might be feeling, or what day what day you will be where, for what reason, for what treatment. It's really can feel impossible in a lot of ways. So trying to plan all that is expected, and we'll talk about those expectations in a minute, during the holiday season can really feel difficult. Shifting roles and relationships again, another area that is year round when cancer is in the picture, and the holiday season seems to just kind of highlight that even more sometimes. Maybe people that used to handle certain aspects of the holiday planning, or were present, that are no longer present anymore. That can be incredibly difficult. Finances can understandably be taxed as well, between medical bills or disruptions to income stream. And we all know that food and festivities and social gatherings tend to be at the center of the holiday season. So cue issues with food. Maybe your child doesn't eat the same things they used to eat, or their appetite is impacted, or the relationship with food, or concerns with immunity. Holiday season is all about gatherings, right? That's what's pretty much sold to us. And let's just put that in the midst of flu season and add, contact precautions in the mix, and worries about catching all kinds of bugs. It's not exactly ideal. And then there's implicit, socially, is implicit expectations on how to celebrate during the holidays and what you should be focused on. I should be joyful. I should be merry. I should be focusing on fun. So how do you, your child, and your family cope with what seems to be the norm around this time of year as anything but your lived reality? And socially also, let's talk about the label of the family with cancer, right? So you might be feeling grateful for people offering to help and checking in, at the same time feeling utterly exhausted and maybe needing space. And it's difficult to help others understand where you're coming from and what this is like. You might feel or be in a very different place, where you might be feeling very disconnected, or feeling as though you have a thin support system and are feeling actually kind of lonely. The holiday season and all of its hype seems to hit home especially hard in that way as well. And the holidays finally bring, for better or for worse, potential for deeper reflection on relationships, on memories, on value of time spent, on mortality. And some of those things, some of those emotions and those thoughts are welcome, and some of them can be very painful. It's so incredibly complex. And grieving kind of can go hand in hand through your journey with cancer, or if you had a journey with cancer. But grief can look a lot of different ways. So loss of your identity could be something that you're grieving, or your child is grieving. Or it could also be the shifting identity of your family unit. Every family unit has their own identity as a group. Loss of a specific vision for the future, anticipated loss of a loved one is something we are painfully aware of, and feel all kinds of conflicting emotions on how to manage that, and all the shoulds that go with it, and all the fears that go with that. And then, of course, missing a loved one who's passed. And emotions, as Dr. McDonough had referenced earlier, incredibly complex, and we can have a lot of conflicting emotions, even packaged in grief. We could be experiencing sadness, fear, anger, guilt, or even relief. This slide is really important because I think all too often we are hard on ourselves for the ways that we even experience certain things, like critiquing what emotions we should be having or what reactions we should be having. So we put this here to remind you to please trust yourself that you're going to process what you can when you can. Just like any wound to the body, sometimes the healing process can be really uncomfortable, and sometimes even bizarre and kind of paradoxical, but it knows how to do what it needs to do. And in some ways, the psychological process works similarly. So when emotions arise, try to release that judgment. Your mind is doing what it needs. And if possible, try to share your feelings with others who may also be struggling with grief, because grief is one of those experiences that it's very hard to fully understand unless you've actually been there. We want to stress the importance of also cherishing small moments, and in theme, this idea of connection over perfection, and cherish memories when you're ready. Again, try not to force it. Try to trust that your mind knows what to do in the way that it knows how to do it. And when you are ready, to also consider how to create meaning amidst the grief. Maybe it's something tangible, or maybe it's an experience that you've put together as a way to hold their treasured memory close. And if the previous slides have not kind of suggested this already, it's certainly not a one size fits all. Everyone is different with their own unique histories and life situations and visions for the future. And even before cancer, the holidays may not have felt entirely positive. They may have been complicated. There is really and truly no right way to experience the holidays. The media tries to sell us something different. It definitely does. And even though we might try to keep this in mind, it's still hard. You watch one commercial and your brain is already in a different space. But please try to remember that, it's a lot of marketing. What we see on TV and on the media, it really makes us feel as though this is how everybody is, if you're normal, this is what the holidays are like. But it's far from the truth. Remember, you're not alone in struggling to manage this time. Another really important slide on communication. We'll get into a little bit later on the things to consider when you're trying to communicate with your outside world, right? With extended family members, or when you're trying to communicate with work, or, friends who are trying to help. But this slide in particular, we're talking about a communication within your family unit, within your loved ones. Having conversations among loved ones and supports is essential. Try to follow your child or your children's lead when possible. You may feel like they should be talking about this. I know they really need to talk about this. And then there might be that common caregiver urge to want to like force them into that place because it's healthy, but it may not just be the right time for them, and they will kind of show you that, and you'll see those windows arise when they really feel like it is time that they need to get something off their chest. Communicating also needs to not just happen between you and your child who may have cancer, or if you are a family who's lost someone to cancer, the communication really needs to be between all members, trying to make sure that everybody feels heard and supported, especially during the holiday season, as they all might have all kinds of conflicting feelings of their own, or different opinions or desires on how they want things to look. Gently ask about preferences, but try not to assume. This next bullet on modeling emotional expression is incredibly important as well. I think it is really, really natural for caregivers to project all the positive emotions, try to make it look like everything is fine and we're all well put together, and keep those more negative emotions in the background. If you're feeling low, if you're feeling nervous, if you're worried, and to not necessarily communicate that to your children because you don't want them to worry, you don't want them to get upset. But unbeknownst to us, and certainly not because we plan to, but unfortunately this can often communicate to children that those other feelings that you're not really modeling or discussing are not really safe either. And so a lot of times they may feel like these are not feelings that I should also be experiencing, and they're not certainly ones that I'm going to then talk about. So modeling them in addition to processing them and normalizing them is important. And keep in mind that ups and downs are normal, and trying to also communicate that to your children. It's okay if sometimes you're feeling super sad and super mad and super happy and super scared and super worried all in the same day. Then there's this other big one with guilt. And we deliberately wrote within the family because guilt can be experienced by a number of different family members for different reasons. It's not just a caregiver thing, it's not just a patient thing. And so it's important, again, to keep those channels of communication open within your family and help everyone feel heard, because you may have a sibling who is feeling guilty about still wanting to celebrate in the old way that they used to celebrate, but then also feeling like, oh, does that mean I'm insensitive to my sibling who's, not feeling well? Or a caregiver who feels like they want to be able to give the world to their children, but the reality is just not panning out that way, and feeling as though their kids are not getting what they deserve. Or the patient themselves, the kiddo who unfortunately is the one that's been really viscerally needing to deal with treatment, feeling as though they may be a burden on the family, that they're going to bring everybody down, or they're the reason that nobody is really experiencing the holidays the way they could. So it's important to make that space so that nobody really is feeling alone in their emotions.
And kids pick up on everything. So even when we think we're protecting them, they are still noticing changes in family routines, seeing parents feeling stressed, or they're missing out on things that used to feel special. This can lead to disappointment or confusion about what's happening. And the holidays can amplify this uncertainty. So just as it can be a time of reflection for adults, it can also be a time of reflection for kids too. And they can feel the fear around the unknown, the uncertainty, the disruptions in the plans and the routines. So it can be helpful to discuss information at their level, and to the extent that you can, provide some routines that offer some predictability for them. Sometimes kids don't yet have the words to identify their feelings, like sadness, jealousy, guilt, worry. So instead, those feelings might come out through behaviors. So things like clinginess, irritability, anger, or shutting down. And with all that said, there are a few small but powerful ways that you can support kids emotionally during this season. Just as Dr. Naguib said, so acknowledging the feeling, such as disappointment, but without trying to fix it. It's okay for them to feel this. Helping them to find the words for their feelings, as was mentioned earlier. So when we name our own feelings, we're showing our kids that emotions are safe to talk about. And you could model simple language like, it's okay to feel sad that we're missing the holiday concert or the holiday party. I'm feeling that way too. Or I wonder what feels hard about this time of year for you. Or asking your kid, what's one thing that you wish could be different? And asking about the hard feelings is also important too. Sometimes they might need an invitation to share, but trying to find that balance between asking and wanting to encourage them to talk about their feelings without feeling pushy is something that you might want to try to navigate by regularly speaking about our own feelings and feelings in general around them. They're more likely to be able to feel comfortable to come to you and share when they're ready. You can let them contribute to small plans. So asking them, what is one tradition that you'd like to keep this year? Or what would make the day feel special to you? Providing space to share what they miss and what they still enjoy is also important, because kids can hold both. They can miss how things used to be, and they can still find joy in the small moments now. And as we think about supporting the diagnosed child, it's also really important to keep siblings in mind. I say this as a clinical psychologist, but also as a childhood cancer sibling. You may feel pressure to maintain traditions or keep it normal for the sibling's sake. I know that my parents felt that pressure. My parents have shared that with me, that they wanted to just keep the holidays comfortable and as they were for me, but the reality was that they weren't the same anymore. The holidays can bring up a lot for the siblings, and sometimes it's in ways that can be easy to miss. Siblings often notice that plans and attention revolve around their child with cancer, and they might not say anything, but they could feel sidelined sometimes, especially if their own activities or traditions have been canceled or changed. And while it can be easier for older siblings sometimes to understand that their diagnosed sibling needs additional attention during this time, sometimes the younger siblings don't quite understand that, and they may act out in an attempt to get your attention. Even small gestures of inclusion can make a big difference. So, inviting the sibling to help decorate or plan a meal, to choose a new tradition that helps them to feel valued and seen. Many siblings also can wrestle with guilt for a variety of different reasons. So, it could be guilt that they're healthy when their sibling isn't. It could be that guilt that they wish things could go back to how they were before diagnosis. It could be a guilt that they are having fun, or guilt that they want to have fun and enjoy themselves like their peers. The unpredictability of cancer can make siblings feel anxious too, so especially when the plans keep shifting. And in a time when there is so much unknown and so much out of your control, giving kids a sense of what will happen, even if small, can help to ground them. So, saying something like, even if we can't go to grandma's this year, we'll still bake cookies. Letting them know what's happening rather than leaving them to fill in the blanks using their imagination can really make a difference. And just as we mentioned before, kids often pick up on the parents' stress. So even if no one talks about it, they sense and feel when things are uncertain. Siblings are living this story too, and when parents carve out moments of connection and communication, even small, siblings often feel steadier, less alone, and more part of the family journey. So, to get more specific, what can you do to help siblings during this time? Similar to what we discussed with as ways of helping and supporting the diagnosed child, having a role can help siblings to feel important and involved as well. So this could be something small like helping to decorate the hospital room, choosing music. It could be having the role of being a memory keeper or a tradition helper of some sort. The goal here isn't to add responsibility, but to give them a sense of purpose and belonging to show that they matter here too. And holidays can highlight just how much has changed. So siblings may miss their old routines or family members who can't be here. And letting them talk about what they miss or helping them choose an old tradition or a new one can give them a sense of agency and connection. Carving out short, intentional moments with the sibling is really important, even if just 15 minutes, to go for a walk together, read together, bake something. It can help rebuild that sense of safety and connection with the sibling, and a connection that can sometimes feel lost during a medical focus. You taking this time for them communicates to the sibling that I see you and you're important to me, even among all of this chaos. Um, Siblings may benefit from expressing love or remembrance through action. So things like making or choosing a small gift for their sibling, a card or a keepsake for their sibling with cancer or in memory of a loved one. And all families grieve differently. So sometimes, if a sibling has died, their living siblings can struggle with how to process the loss if they find that their family avoids talking about them. Um, you can include symbolic traditions, such as an ornament, a photo, a favorite song, and give siblings the option to participate or not without pressure. And remembering that behavior is communication, and sometimes acting out is grief or that bid for connection.
I love those ideas. Um, they really seem very meaningful. I'm wondering if it makes sense to just pause here and see if there's anything we might be able to answer for folks.
Examples of specific ways to communicate about health and germ concerns and gatherings. maybe for families or friends that might not quite understand how big of a concern it really is, when maybe a cold or whatever feels like nothing to them, and how serious that can be. So how do we work around that dynamic?
So I'm super excited, and probably is Dr. McDonough, that a point that we actually will be getting to in the presentation and a couple more slides really is going to speak to that on how do we tell people is something or other close to the title of that slide. And so maybe when we're on that one, Dr. McDonough, that can be something that you can speak to also.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we don't cover it well enough, feel free to circle back.
Sounds great. And another one, you spoke a little bit, a few slides back, about what to do with your different dynamics with this, with siblings, your other children, or and feelings and communicating. And how about the child or the parent who doesn't have the energy or the capacity to give to one child who maybe is just looking for the joy in the season, and they don't seem to be able to have the energy to offer that sibling who just wants to have whatever kind of be a little bit normal. How do you deal with that kind of push and pull?
I mean, I think I would say even if finding a small way to make it special for the sibling. So recognizing that, you may feel exhausted yourself at this time of year. Um, and it is really hard to have that push and pull of the differing preferences or wants at this time. But if there was a tiny way that you could just bring a little bit of that to the sibling who was still looking for it, because sometimes they're just wanting and craving any sort of the normalcy or the life as it used to be, when the reality is that a lot is different now. And with so much out of our control, I think that, you know, sometimes having things as they were for the sibling is what feels like comfort to them. Dr.
Okay.
McKeeb, anything to add there?
Maybe just sometimes considering whether there is a way that it may not be right now, that these things that your other child is seeking, um, maybe it can happen at a later time when things aren't so crazy or depleted, and helping them to understand that you haven't lost them, you haven't lost track. It's difficult, and it's difficult on you. And again, back to this communication of modeling and sharing with them what you're going through as well, and what you imagine they're going through, as a way of inviting them, um, can open that door, that conversation, so that to sort of help the child understand. And then when things start to lift a little bit again, then maybe that can be the time that you start to infuse a couple of those things that maybe that child is really wishing for.
Thank you. There's a couple more, but I'm going to hold them because I think you might address them in future slides. So we'll check back in.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we wanted to provide some validation on a lot that the holiday season can bring in, but we also wanted to be able to inject a little bit of a sense of agency. That there is a little bit of a choice involved in what direction you might choose, for yourself, and how you choose to navigate this time of year, whether it's this year and several moving forward, or just for this year. So this first choice is to attempt to reshape the holidays for yourself, for your family. Challenging that pressure, that idea that you have to kind of keep the holidays the same or recreate what maybe just no longer seems manageable or meaningful. Challenging that pressure to meet a standard. Really, this is a choice. It's not a should. And that delineation is really important. But should you choose to try to reshape the season, maybe coming together, starting from scratch with your family as a unit and trying to shape it into something that feels loving and real and unique. Um, and again, the simplicity, the connection, the presence still, it just is worth so many more points than the Christmas Hallmark card idea. So if that is something you're choosing to do, that doesn't also equate to you need to have all the energy in the world to redo what this looks like. Maybe just kind of reshaping, recycling old traditions, coming up with new ones. Again, listen to your kids for ideas, or connect with other families, or talk to your hospital team, because they've certainly had contact with a lot of families and have picked up things over time. But it's this next slide that I think we tend to forget about or don't. Equally important is to make space to not, or to decline, or decide not now. It's your right, and it's not wrong or right to celebrate or partake in the season altogether. You have your reasons for what you choose, period. No explanation needed. Everybody has their own unique circumstances, and not participating at this time or at all might be what's best for your family. What's most important is that your family is coming to that place together.
So what can you tell people about how you're navigating this holiday season? Preparation for uncomfortable or potentially challenging conversations or interactions can be helpful. So you and your family can collaborate on a message that can be shared out. Often people want to support, but don't know how or if they should. And having a message that you can share can provide clarity and lessen the burden of unwanted gestures, and leave more room for what could actually be helpful to you. So like having a message ready to share can alleviate some of that pressure on you of having to share the message with everybody in the community who's asking. Um, so consider having a brief response in mind for when you are approached by others. That way you don't have to think about it on the spot. We'll get more into some examples of what that can look like on the next slide. But finally ask yourself, are you struggling with people pleasing, worried about saying no or setting that boundary? There's no doubt that it can be hard or awkward to say that sometimes, but it's really important to do what is best for you and your family at this time. So here are some statements that you can have prepared. So if somebody were to say, "What are you all doing this year?" You could say, "This year our family is just focusing on having some private time together." If somebody said, "We would love to have you all over," you can say, "Thank you so much. That sounds lovely, but we're planning to take it easy this year." And if they're more persistent, something like, "I can see how much you care and I really do appreciate it, but this is hard to talk about. I promise I know you are here and I will reach out when I need to." You may have people in your life who
Dr.
tell
McDonough,
you, oh, sure.
sorry, do we want to just really quick that point about the infection?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, and the idea that a cold is just a cold. What's the big deal?
sure. So, um, well, I think that to some extent, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, but the reality is that some people just truly don't get it. And if you haven't lived this life in the childhood cancer world, they may think that a cold is just a cold, but it can mean a lot more to our families. So you can say something to them like simply that a cold it can be more than just a cold. to my child, and we need to do what we can to keep our family safe and healthy. Um, do you have other suggestions, Dr. Nikki?
I'm also thinking that that god awful question that everybody gets all the time that is super loaded is, how are you? Right? And although maybe grabbing that question and using it as a tool sometimes to deliver that information, the information that you really need them to hear, might be a perfect opportunity, right? Because it beats trying to come at them at another point and say, okay, now here, let's talk about how infection works with cancer, right? So it could be something like, how are you doing? I'm really stressed out. This time of year is rough because everybody's getting together and we want to do that too, but things are so difficult now. And, with cancer, the smallest bug can land us in the hospital. Not sure, if you knew that, but it was the first thing that we learned when we were also diagnosed. The doctors told us so many different things about how we had to be careful because they have no immune system. So those, how are you doing? And you're like, oh, don't even get me started on how I'm doing. You can actually use that as an opportunity to deliver maybe some information that would otherwise be awkward to kind of get across. So that would at least be probably my approach, I think, in that situation, or try to head things off as much as you can. If you know certain things are coming up, like we said, have certain ideas and phrases prepared. You probably know the people that are going to be coming and asking you things, and so you'll know what tends to work and what doesn't. And putting some of that information out there at the outset might help, finding yourself needing to field it every day for a while.
Thank you. So you may have people in your life who tell you to, that you just need to be grateful, or you may have heard the phrase toxic positivity. So the idea that there's this pressure to stay upbeat no matter how dire the situation is, and ignoring other feelings. So this is not the same as that empty suggestion to just be grateful when things are hard. Gratitude is not about ignoring pain or pretending that everything is okay, but rather noticing the moments of meaning even during hardship. So gifts, decorations, parties, gatherings aside, coming together to focus on what you are grateful for, small or large, past or present, can help you to keep your heart in tune with what is the most valuable thing to you right now. So thinking about where your love and joy will come from, whether you're staying in simplicity or, building festivity around it, consider where you personally find gratitude and try to center around that. And it's also really important to remember that conflicting emotions often reside together. So they can be there at the same time without negating each other. So gratitude can coexist with anger or grief, and we need to make time and space to have both. The holidays are often described as a time of togetherness, which can make isolation feel even heavier for families navigating childhood cancer. Um, Similar to what we're discussing with immunity. Let's talk about what that can look like and some ways that we can ease the loneliness. Um, Families may be physically isolated due to immune precautions or hospital schedules. And even when people care, they might just not fully understand just how limiting life can be during treatment. And as parents, you may feel as though no one truly gets it, especially if others are expecting you to still feel grateful or to feel positive during the holidays. And sometimes people withdraw because they don't know what to say. So you may have friends who it feels like they have taken a step back and you're kind of wondering, where are they now? They may not know what to say, and that can deepen that sense of separation. I know that in our experience, that was the case for us. My parents and I did experience some loss of friendships because they just didn't know what to say to us anymore. and that can feel really difficult. It's okay to ask for help or connection when you need it, and Dr. Nikki will speak further to that in a moment. Um, but sorry, I'm clicking, it's not moving. Okay, so this year, think about can connection look different? So challenging that familiar definition of supports. Can supports be more than just family or friends? Does it have to be a big network, or could it be smaller connections that can still make a difference? Could be short visits, porch drop-offs, video calls, watching a movie together, decorating the hospital room, or even honoring traditions in a new way. Can connection look like lighting a candle where you are at the same time as loved ones are lighting a candle in their home? And it may also be the reality for some of you that you don't have family or friends to lean on, or that support doesn't look like it used to. Support can come from an online community like you have here tonight. It could come from childhood cancer organizations like Momcology and the Be Positive Foundation, hospital staff, or a neighbor instead of extended family. And when isolation feels so heavy, caring for your own emotional needs is really critical. Even brief moments like taking a walk, even down the hospital hallway, journaling, deep breaths, these can all help you to refill your emotional reserves. And as parents, and especially as parents of children with cancer, you may not feel as though you can take this time for yourself to do something for you. And I'm so glad you're here tonight and taking this time to be here with us, because self-care isn't selfish, it's survival. And you have to take care of yourself too. So connection can be quieter or smaller than before, but it can still be meaningful.
So asking for and accepting support where you can is, of course, key. Much easier said than done in some situations. But number one, in summary, give yourself grace. Allow for your emotions and your healing without judgment. Try to delineate between what is superficial versus meaningful. Knock that media out of your brain. Allow for connection if it will fill your cup. Remember that you're not alone in the complicated ways this time of year can make us feel, and communication is essential.
So a few things for you to think about as we wrap up here tonight. What is one way that you can protect your emotional energy this holiday season? What is one small tradition or moment that still brings meaning or comfort? And remind yourself that there is no right or wrong way to feel about the holidays. You may feel a mix of emotions, and that is okay. You're doing a great job parenting through something that no parent should have to go through.
We had quite a few questions come in, so I'm going to try to scroll through what we have. But we had one in particular, and I did want to give the audience an opportunity to pop some of their thoughts into chat about this. And it's one attendee who suggested that the first few years after diagnosis felt what they considered to be disorienting, just disorienting all around. And then a couple of years later, well, feeling like they've maybe established what they said a new normal, they said it's still very tender. And I think that's a great way to describe that. They're looking for ways they want to lean into grace for themselves and try to create new traditions, and are curious if the audience could maybe, the rest of the attendees could maybe give some ideas about what they've done that worked for them, and kind of use the hive mentality here to help give them some ideas for this year so that they can do that for themselves. And I bet those answers would help out a lot of other people as well. So I just wanted to give the audience that opportunity. And then also questions about, and I'd love for you two to answer this, pressure to do things, whether it be for family or friends, and in particular, pressure to do something big for your healthcare team. And wanting to, I want you to answer this question because I know the answer is like, don't worry about us. But there is that desire. I had that desire myself, to really want to take care of the people that are taking care of your children. So, are there easy things that a family can do to express that without having to feel some overburdened need to do something large or overwhelming?
I think that one is definitely tough because we don't think of that, right? Like and
Mhm.
everybody's kind of, focused on supporting families. And I want to say, like, I hope that I speak for the majority of us in the fact that we do this because it's what we love. Um, and so I think some of the things that tend to be the most meaningful are notes or pictures or just cards, right? And not anything kind of crazy or feeling as though, my goodness, we got to bring in the whole of Dunkin' Donuts, right? Like, but yeah, that's what I would say.
Or even a simple, I know you're here in the holidays and you're away from your family taking care of mine, so thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And maybe the biggest message, Natalie, from you on that one is that you're mainly doing this because you love to do this work, and our appreciation is all that you need. And so thank you for that, on behalf
Yeah.
of
Our
everybody. We're getting a lot of hearts right
acceptance
now,
of the
so
support.
everybody
Yeah.
appreciates you. Um, let's see. Somebody did bring up a nice suggestion about allowing the celebrations to maybe happen after they're supposed to. Don't worry about the calendar. That's actually sounds like a great suggestion. Um, Another question, how about some practical things for families who find themselves inpatient during these times of year? Any practical advice about resources or what to do or how to ask for, what can we do? And I know each hospital is different, but just any practical ideas or things that you've seen that helped families that were inpatient um, during this time of year.
Do you want to speak from a CHOP perspective?
Sure. I mean, I shared one story with Dr. McDonough when we were preparing for this. A mom had made, again, this is impractical unless you have, like, some fine art degree or whatever. But it just reminded me that she literally made a fireplace in the patient's room out of construction paper, and I think, like, asked Child Life for help. And they set up like blankets on the floor, and she put up, Christmas lights in the room. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't want to leave. This is prettier than the setup I have, at home. So not to say that anything massive like that would necessarily be done, but I do think there are little ways in which you can certainly um, try to have those meaningful moments in patient, and you could definitely get the teams to do it with you too. They love that stuff.
I love that. Yeah, child life, lean on child life when you can, right? Allie, did you have anything to add to that one?
I was trying to think from my own personal perspective, but we actually were admitted in January, so it was just after Christmas for us. So, um, yeah, I mean, I think similarly, and child life was on my mind as well. Actually, I saw another Q&A come through, and child life was on my mind as you said it, Kat. The question was about noticing that another child is distancing herself from the community after diagnosis. Um, and I know that from my experience as the sibling, child life also wanted to interact with me. And so I was thinking perhaps that your child life specialist might be somebody that you could connect with. I'm not sure of your child's age, but perhaps that could be a place to start too.
I think child life is always the answer almost. With some of these things, it's just so nice to have that to lean on, or whoever your person is, if you can find one on the team at the hospital, regardless of your hospital size, there's usually somebody who can really get behind this kind of task and wants to help.
That that's their specialty, is to normalize the unnormalizable. So definitely, definitely they've got serious tricks up their sleeves on making things fun. And you know, it's not Disney, but you
Yeah.
know, they try as much as they can.
A number of people have said things like decorating the door, the inside the inside and outside of the door, so that it's not just on one side. Um, Somebody else suggested not to be afraid to ask for help and to let this be a time of year where you accept that, because those little meals or that little pick me up, that hot cup of coffee that a friend brings to you or whatever, could make all the difference in taking a little bit of that pressure off. I'm just trying to get through some of the comments that people have shared. Um, I love the through the glass. I think that's with the door is a great suggestion and a great idea. Um,
I had seen one about someone whose child passed from cancer and no longer wants to celebrate the holidays, but is really struggling to field the pressure from family, and telling her things like her child would not want her to be sad and would want to celebrate the holidays. And something in there, I can't find it now, about she knows that her child would want to do what's best for her in the way that she needs to do it at the time that she needs to do it. And so I just want to say 1,000%, just offering that validation, um, that that's exactly how you need to go about it. You know, we talked about like healing and, um, and processing things the way that your mind is going to encourage you to process them. You need to leave space for that. And I'm sorry that you're having to deal with that frustrating pressure for others, but a lot of people, especially people who have not gone through incredibly difficult things in life, they don't understand the power of needing to sometimes be sad. The whole idea sometimes makes other people really uncomfortable, when sometimes all you want is maybe to be given the space to do that and process it the way that you want, or to have someone just be present with you in it.
that was very powerful, um,
Yeah,
and needed.
I saw that one as well, and I was wanting to speak to that because um, actually my dad just put it in the Q&A as well. But we our first holiday after my brother died was Thanksgiving, and we left. My parents and I, we didn't want to have the big family gathering with extended family and friends, and so the three of us just did our own thing, my parents and I. And it was it was really nice to not have the pressure of, having to answer that question, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And we just went. We didn't celebrate the holiday. It was just like a regular Thursday for us, and it's what we needed.
I think that's a really big message that you're giving to all of us tonight, is that to do what it is that we need, and not worry so much about the rest. I think that resonated all the way through all your slides. And that was really, it's a powerful gift to give to people, to be able to do and ask for what it is that they need at that particular time for themselves. Um, Thank you for that. Sorry, there's so many questions, which is great. Um, Lots of suggestions here, folks. There was one that I thought was really great. Somebody found a simple Pinterest sign that said an immunocompromised child lives here, with the ideas of the things to do and not to do. Wash your hands, don't hug, that type of thing. Great idea, super simple. Um, And also the idea of offering ourselves grace and keeping new traditions easy. Or maybe you have a tree, and if you celebrate Christmas, perhaps you have a tree and you don't decorate it this year. Maybe it just doesn't happen, but the tree got up, right? That type of simplifying, using pre-made cookies, that type of stuff. Keep it easy, and give yourself the grace to do that. Um, Another month, more families, medical trauma, and trying to get through the holidays around that. And we hear that, and we understand that, and we're with you. Um,
And
so
can
go ahead, Natalie.
I just want to put in a plug. I wasn't planning on doing it, but after reading all of this and thinking some of these, it's not even possible to just give a quick like piece of feedback on. Please don't forget that there are people out there that want to hear your stories and support you. And professionals are not just in it because, they find therapy or psychology interesting. It's, many of them legitimately do just want to be there to listen and to support you. So for some individuals that might really feel like I really need help with this time of year, please reach out. Please reach out. There's definitely somebody in your healthcare network and your, that awesome insurance list they might be able to send you. I promise you, these are real people, not just obnoxious names on a list. They really do want to help you. And what's more is that they do have the expertise to be able to do that.
And as we thank you, Natalie, and as we wind down, I just wanted to thank both Dr. McDonough and Dr. Naguib for being here with us tonight, and remind everybody. Speaking of giving a plug, um, reach out to your available resources. Momcology is one. Um, the Be Positive Foundation is another amazing resource. And we events, see the websites. I think Layla is putting those in the chat for us. And please participate in those things that will be helpful and useful for you, and seek the help and the resources that you need, at whatever time it is that you find yourself facing. So we appreciate everyone for taking the time tonight for themselves, to join us and engage with others, members of the community. We hope you found this helpful. We wish all of you and all of your families a peaceful season ahead. And we hope to see you in another Caregiver Lounge. Thank you both so much for being with us tonight. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.